Good evening and welcome. At 7:37 p.m. on October 19th of 2020, the town meeting for Dudley, Massachusetts is now called to order. Thank you for joining us this evening and for having the patience as we work through a long registration line. Thank you all for coming out tonight. This is an exceptionally important part of our local government and decision making as we plan for the future of Dudley, Massachusetts. As a reminder, for decorum and procedure for our town meeting, please make sure that you remove all hats when you are inside this auditorium for the duration of the meeting. Please stand to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing to join me in a moment of silence to honor the memories of all those who have served the town in varying capacities throughout the years, in particular, Mr. William Fife, who passed away recently, as well as all the lives locally, nationally, and globally due to the impacts of COVID-19. Thank you. Be seated. So our first order of business tonight is to give you a quick orientation to our clicker voting system. Those of you who haven't joined us before, Ms. Smith, town clerk, has gone ahead through her resources and procured clickers for us. As you can see up on the screen behind me, your vote is being counted as a yes or no, and it will be fed into our computer tabulation system where we'll be able to actually see the tabulated votes on the screen with us. We are switching our, we're not going to be showing a percentage of votes tonight, we'll be showing total numbers, and Ms. Smith and I will consult to ensure that the proper percentage has been achieved, and that will be announced after the voting of each article. Response cards will only work in this meeting. They cannot change the TV channel or open a garage. I'm sorry. Point of order or something along those lines would be much appreciated. If you can't see that, I think we can adjust the lights. Hang on just a moment, okay? And then I'll see what I can do for you. So sorry about that. We had to turn the lights on so we could see what we were doing earlier as we got our evening underway. So the clickers, please make sure they get returned when you are leaving the auditorium at the end of this evening's town meeting. Return the response cards at the box on exiting. So if you notice the orientation of the clicker, a successful yes vote has a green light and 1A on the LCD screen. A successful no vote, if you are entering it, is a green light and 2B on the LCD screen. Vote not registered will flash a red light and a no symbol on the LCD screen. So it's really quite easy. 1A is yes, 2B is no. And if it doesn't register, there's a not symbol that's visible. So, if we can practice, we've got a great audience. Question number 1. The presidential election is Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. 1 is yes, 2 is no. We can begin the time now. You'll note that there's a clock up there, about a 10-second time to enter your selection. And as we can see, 143 people believe that the election is on November 3rd, and 7 people believe that it is not on November 3rd. Maybe completed early voting or absentee ballot. That's okay, the voting was for you. But again, this is just a sample of how this is working tonight. Defacing a milk carton in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is punishable by a $20 fine. 1, yes. 2, no. Please begin the time. Interesting. 74.1% say that is not punishable by a $20 fine. It's actually a $10 fine. Didn't know that, did you? Interesting tidbit. And we're back to our Dudley Fall Town meeting. So before we do begin this evening, we do have some informational points for you so that you are aware of them. For this evening, we'll be hearing from a variety of board members from our town government. All elected and appointed officials are serving in the town in varying capacities, and it's important to acknowledge their efforts and dedication to our residents of the town of Dudley. Folks seated down in the front, FAA, Ann Gaudreau, Maggie Lavasser, Mark Landry, Michael Mayotte, Board of Selectmen, Chairman Kerry Siganevich, Jason Johnson, John Marcy, Paul Joseph, Stephen Sullivan, and Town Administrator John Ruda down on the floor immediately in front of me. This evening we did have a quorum of 50 registered voters, and as of 6:55 we did not have that quorum, but at 7:37 tonight we have far exceeded the quorum. Did we have an exact count, Lori? We can get that exact count just to enter it for the record. I was excited that we had enough clickers, so I kind of jumped the gun before I had the actual count. Several procedural notes and reminders for this evening. Please turn off your cell phone ringer. If you must use your phone, please do so out in the cafeteria. Procedural rules this evening are in accordance with the town bylaws and are available via the town clerk, the town website, and the public library. If you are in doubt on a specific point, you should consult the primary sources of authority, the Massachusetts General Laws, bylaws of the town of Dudley, and Robert's Rules of Order. If by chance during the meeting you do need to utilize the restroom tonight, please place your clicker in a collection bin down by the back left-hand exit, and then the clicker will be returned to you on your re-entry to the auditorium. In the event that there is an emergency, we will not be collecting clickers, but we will be asking you to exit via the nearest egress route at either the front or the back of the auditorium. At the conclusion of the meeting, we're going to try an orderly dismissal from the rear of the auditorium to the front, because what we have to do is maintain social distancing. We want to ensure that everybody exits in a very safe and controlled manner, and we also get those clickers returned. So please await an usher or direction from a member of the team to have your row exit. As a reminder, please don't congregate in the auditorium, in the lobby, or in the immediate area outside the exit to Shepherd Hills cafeteria. To be recognized this evening during public comment or questions during the discussion of each article, please stand at your seat and await my direction to approach the microphone. You must be at the microphone unless a physical condition makes this difficult for you, in which case, raise your hand, which will make you visible, and I will assist in getting you the opportunity to speak. Please do not touch the microphone as best you can. If it is necessary for touching to adjust the height, the microphone or any touch surfaces will be disinfected prior to the next speaker. It is permissible to remove your mask at the microphone while you are speaking. And again, we will make sure that that gets disinfected in between speakers. Please be sure to state your name and address your remarks each time you approach the microphone. What I'm going to ask for at this time is, through unanimous consent, I will request that clarification for a department budget item or any other article be required, that employees or agents acting on behalf of the town of Dudley who are not residents be permitted to speak. Are there any in opposition to this unanimous consent rule this evening? Hearing none, through unanimous consent, we will permit non-residents and as well as employees or agents acting on behalf of the town of Dudley to speak this evening when addressed by me. As a point of information, we do have town counsel from KP Law, Carolyn Murray, who may be consulted at times. She's seated down here in the front row immediately in front of me, as well as attorney for the Stevens Mill, Mr. Stephen Maddow, who may be called upon for clarification of any questions related to the article on Stevens Mill. Mr. Maddow is seating to my immediate left of the podium in the second row. Regarding debate, Our quorum number this evening, for the record, is 172 voters, and we do have 11 members in the audience who are signed in and are not residents of the town. For debate this evening, you must speak only to the issues. You may not make personal remarks about others or impugn their motives. You may not cheer or jeer points made by members of the public. Except for the petitioner and certain town officials, you may only speak twice to a motion, and your comments are limited to 10 minutes each time. All questions must be addressed through the chair, that's me. If you do ask a question, you do not lose the floor, and the answer is part of your speaking time. As Robert's Rules of Order permits speakers to speak at 10 minutes, I ask that through unanimous consent for a rule of the meeting limiting debate to 5 minutes per speaker this evening. Are there any objections to adopting that rule for this evening? Seeing and hearing none, through unanimous consent, there will be a 5-minute limit per speaker for this meeting and all debates within. Voting has typically been by voice vote, except in situations where a 2/3 vote is required. However, with the use of our clicker technology, if you're joining us for the first time since we procured it, voting will not be by voice this evening. That takes care of all of our procedural rules and expectations relative to the procedures of town meeting. As a reminder, I'd just like you to hearken back to our town motto, all was others, all will be others, and how future generations will benefit from our actions here tonight. Town Clerk Smith, at this time, please come up and dispense with the reading of the warrant.
To either of the constables in the town of Dudley in the county of Worcester, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town of Dudley, qualified to vote in elections and town affairs, to meet in the Connie Van Calgally Auditorium at Shepherd Hill Regional High School, 68 Dudley Oxford Road in said Dudley, on Monday, October 19th, 2020, and Tuesday, October 20th, 2020, if needed, and other such times as may be voted, if needed, at 7 p.m., then and there to take action on the following articles.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Could you go ahead and read the serving of the warrant?
You are hereby directed to serve this warrant by posting attested copies thereof at the Dudley Municipal Center and on the Town of Dudley website, and by posting notice of availability of the warrant on one cable access channel. Warrant to be posted at least 14 days before holding of said meeting. Hereof fail not and make due return of this warrant with your doing thereon to the town clerk at the time of the holding of said meeting. Given under our hands this 5th day of October in the year 2020, Carrie Siganevich, Chairman, John Marcy, Vice Chairman, Jason Johnson, Clerk, Paul Joseph, Stephen Sullivan. I have notified and warned the inhabitants of the town of Dudley by posting up attested copies of the same at the Dudley Municipal Center on the 5th of October 2020. I also observed it posted on the town's website, and notice of availability on the Dudley Cable Access Channel on the 5th of October 2020. Hereby making my return to the Dudley Town Clerk on the 5th of October 2020, Constable Michael Mayotte.
Thank you very much, Ms. Smith. Article 1. To see if the town will vote to receive the reports of several town officers and all committees or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Mayotte.
The FAA recommends you pass Article 1 as written, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded by Mr. Siganevich. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, please start the timer and enter your votes for Article 1. Article 1 passes with a majority. Article 2. To hear and act on the recommendations of the Board of Selectmen in the Finance and Appropriation Advisory Committee or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Mayotte.
The FAA recommends you pass Article 2 as written, and I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, please go ahead and start the timer and enter your votes for Article 2. Article 2 passes with a clear majority. Article 3, unpaid bills of a prior year. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds, including but not limited to the Stabilization Fund, $15,022.09 to pay outstanding invoices from Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Sealer of Weights, and KP Law, or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Mayor?
The FAA recommends you pass Article 3 as written with the source of funding from free cash, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion for Article 3? Seeing none and hearing none, Article 3 does require a 4/5 vote, and we can go ahead and start that timer now. Please enter your votes for Article 3. The 4/5 has been achieved with a 90% vote. Article 3 passes. We do have a couple of clickers that are not working at this point in time. Ms. Knoyer is going around, and she will go ahead and help us tabulate those 5, bring those up to me with each vote, so that way I can go ahead and enter those into the record of either affirmative or opposed. Article 4, FY 2021 Supplemental Budget Appropriation, to see if the town will vote to determine the sums of money the town will raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from any available funds to defray the supplemental charges and expenses of the town, and including debt and interest for fiscal year 2021, voted under Article 7, June 22 of 2020 Annual Town Meeting, or take any other action relative thereto. For a point of information, Appendix 1 should have been received by you with all of the information that you need. Article 4. Mr. Mayotte.
The FAA recommends you pass Article 4 as written with source of funding coming from free cash and line item transfers, and I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion for Article 4? Seeing and hearing none for Article 4, please go ahead and enter your choice for yes or no. As of now, Article 4 stands with an affirmative vote of 94%, which is going to certainly clear even with those 7 outstanding votes at this time. However, I do want them entered into the record. Anybody who did not have a clicker that was functioning properly, I will ask that you come down to the front 2 rows immediately to my right at this time. So for tabulation purposes and recognition of your votes, it will be much easier than running this auditorium. So if you have a clicker that is not functioning and you received a piece of paper, please come down to one of the front 2 rows immediately to my right. We'll give folks an opportunity to do that. Thanks for your patience tonight. Reminder, without this clicker technology, we'll be doing voice votes and possible hand counts tonight, so the slight delays that we're experiencing are certainly going to be okay for us. Right in these first 2 front rows here, please. First 2. Thank you. Social distance and we're spread out. Perfect. So how this is going to work, just so everybody's clear, we will do our best to maintain anonymity with all the votes. They'll be gathered up by Zach. Zach will bring them up to me. I will count them, and we'll go ahead and enter them in to the vote totals displayed up on screen and work those into our calculations this evening. So on to Article 5. To see if the town will vote to transfer the amount of $19,551.00 from the account number listed DMC Repairs to the account number listed DMC West Main Street, or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Mayotte.
The FAA recommends you pass Article 5, and I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion for Article 5. Seeing none, we'll call for a vote on Article 5. Article 5 passes with a clear majority. For the record, Article 4, going back, has 3 additional affirmative votes, increasing the percentage from 94 to about 95.5. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to transfer, my fault. I'm going to update Article 5. I'll get into the routine. I'm excited to keep moving. Article 4 has 1 additional affirmative. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. On to Article 6. To see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the amount of $100,000.00 to the Capital Improvement Stabilization Fund and the amount of $65,000.00 to the Stabilization Fund, or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Mayotte.
The FAA recommends that you pass Article 6 as written, and I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded for Article 6. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none for Article 6, please go ahead and cast your vote. A total of 129 affirmative, 9 in opposition, and Article 6 passes with a clear majority. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to appropriate from water sewer retained earnings account number listed the sum of $43,349.00 for the purchase of a 2020 Ford F-350 heavy-duty pickup truck with an 8-foot plow, or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Mayor.
The FAA recommends you approve Article 7 as written with source of funding coming from retained earnings, and I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion for Article 7. Seeing and hearing none, we'll call for a vote on Article 7. Six additional affirmative votes for 116 to 25. Article 7 passes with a clear majority. Article 8, to see if the town will vote pursuant to its authority under the 4th paragraph of General Law, Chapter 40, subsection 5B, to dedicate 50% of revenue derived from any cannabis host community agreement entered into by the town, 100% of revenue derived from any ground lease agreement entered into by the town, 100% of revenue derived from the TNC municipalities' rides and revenues disbursement to the Capital Stabilization Fund established under General Law, Chapter 40, subsections 5B, and 100% of funds collected through the sale of town-owned surplus, worthless, obsolete, or scrap vehicles or equipment. Such dedication to take effect from the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2021, or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Mayor.
The FAA recommends you pass Article 8 as written with the funding going to Capital Stabilization Fund, and I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on Article 8? Seeing and hearing none, we will move to a vote for Article 8. Point of information, Article 8 does require a 2/3 majority. Affirmative, 4 in opposition. That is definitely a 2/3 majority. Article 8 passes. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to I, enter into an agreement for payments in lieu of taxes pursuant to General Law, Chapter 59, subsection 38H, B, in connection with the solar facility installed or to be installed on the town's former landfill off Indian Road being leased by the town to the owner of such facility pursuant to the authorization voted under Article 30 on the October 20, 2017 Fall Town Meeting. And 2, enter into an agreement for the purchase of solar credits generated by such facility, with such agreements to be for terms of years coextensive with the term of the lease agreement between the town and the facility owner, and on such other terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deem in the best interest of the town, and to further authorize the Board of Selectmen take any actions and execute any other instruments or ancillary agreements necessary and convenient to accomplish the foregoing, and to implement and administer such agreements or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Mayor.
The FAA will defer to the Board of Selectmen to make a motion.
Mr. Siganovich.
Point of order.
Yes, sir.
You read October 20th.
Oh, thank you.
2017.
That was my error. October 30, 2017 town meeting. Thank you for that correction.
Motion was read.
Mr. Siganovich.
The Board of Selectmen recommends approval of this article, and I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion for Article 9. Yes. Please stand and approach the mic in the middle of the aisle. Yes, please.
I'm doing this so that Mr. Johnson isn't disappointed in me because it's solar, and that's just the point.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Marcia Wagner, 27 Hickory Drive. I just wonder, this is to allow you to negotiate. I wonder why we're not doing it. It seems backwards. Well, after you negotiate and have numbers, then come to us. And also my other question is the town receiving lease payments from the solar company, and is this negotiation a second source of revenue?
Thank you. Mr. Siganovich or Mr. Ruda? Mr. Ruda?
And Mr. Moderator, I agree with Mrs. Wagner. It does sound a little backwards, but it probably sounds backwards because the town meeting voters in the fall of 2017 previously authorized the ability for the Board of Selectmen to negotiate that lease. And in the transition between town administrators, that entire project kind of fell off the radar screen. So what we're down to is we have a potential lease agreement on the capped landfill, which the town meeting zoned for that specific and sole purpose, to put a solar array on it. And that lease agreement alone stands to provide over $55,000 annually to the town. The pilot agreement, which is what we're now asking for permission to negotiate, is very formulaic. It coincides with other pilot agreements with solar that we have in town. And it's based upon the amount that the equipment can generate on the site. So there's not a lot of negotiation going on. It's formulaic. It goes to legal. It goes to our assessors to make sure the equipment is being properly assessed. And there's really no further action to take on it. What we present to the Board of Selectmen is essentially has already been vetted, and the pilot agreement is tantamount to assessing tax on property. Again, the lease agreement has been previously authorized, and I hope that answers the question.
Seeing and hearing no additional discussion on Article 9, we'll go ahead and call for a vote at this time. (110 to 24 is the final vote, and that has a clear majority. With Mr. Joseph's keen ears, I will try and slow my reading down a shade so I don't miss a date or any information there. Thanks, Mr. Joseph, for keeping me in mind. Article 10, special legislation petition to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court for special legislation authorizing the town administrator to approve all bills, drafts, invoices, orders, and payrolls under the authority of the Board of Selectmen for funds budgeted and previously approved by town meeting and sign warrants for payment on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, also as budgeted and approved at the town meeting, notwithstanding any general or special law to the contrary, and subject to the provision that the town administrator shall make available to said board any records of such actions on a regular basis and as the board may require, provided, however, that the general court may make clerical or editorial changes of form only to said bill, unless the Board of Selectmen approves amendments thereto prior to enactment by the general court, and provided further that the Board of Selectmen is hereby authorized to approve amendments which shall be within the scope of the general public objectives of this petition, or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Mayor.
The FAA will defer to the Board of Selectmen for a motion.
Mr. Siganevich.
Mike in the land. The Board of Selectmen recommends approval of this article as written, and I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion for Article 10. Seeing no discussion and hearing no discussion, just prior to our entering into the vote on this, it may require for your clicker to tap that button 2 times before you see your vote be registered. So please have a little bit of patience and trust and faith in the tech. If it does require a couple of clicks, please take that extra step to verify that your vote has been entered. But at this time, seeing no discussion, hearing no discussion on Article 10, we'll go ahead and call for a vote. 118 to 28, in a clear majority, Article 10 has passed. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds $1,850.00 or other such sum for amendments and legal review fees for the bylaw codification being conducted by general code, or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Mayotte.
The FAA recommends you pass Article 11 as written, the source of funding from free cash, and I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded for Article 11. Is there any discussion? Yes, please approach the mic and state your name and address for the record. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely. You may talk to Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to amend my motion.
Mr. Mayor, the motion's been made and seconded. You may amend as the original petitioner.
I'd like to amend the source of funding from free cash to account number 0001 123 570302 as the source of funding. And I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded to amend the original motion regarding the source. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and pass for a vote on Article 11. Oh, I'm sorry, we had a hand. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, please head back to that mic about 5 rows back from you. Thank you. I understood the waving of the paper.
Hi, so I just had a quick question. There was a Facebook comment from someone that said that you guys were going over the amount of money. Is this for the zoning bylaw? Is this like the cost for the zoning bylaw?
Mr. Ruda?
Mr. Moderator, just to clarify the question, you mean for the mill zoning that's coming up next?
Yeah, is this like to pay for more of that?
No, this is specifically for the codification project, which takes all of our years and years of bylaws and makes them all consistent. So I use this example all the time. If you're reading our bylaws, some of the bylaws refer to a highway superintendent, some of them refer to a superintendent of highways. Some of them, all the terminology and the wording is not consistent. So what this does is it looks at the overall, all the bylaws for the town, and it makes it consistent throughout. There's no amending or changing of any existing bylaws. It's just wording that's being changed.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
So just for clarification, the vote we're about to take now is not going to be entered into the clickers. It is going to be a voice vote where I'm looking for a majority to amend the original motion that Mr. Mayotte made. So seeing no additional discussion, we are going to do a voice vote, yay or nay, to allow the motion amendment from Mr. Mayotte. So you can go ahead and all in favor of the amendment that was made by Mr. Mayotte? Aye. All opposed? Okay, on to Article 11's discussion. Is there any additional question or comment for Article 11? Yes.
Point of information, are you declaring that vote on the amendment unanimous?
I'm declaring that vote unanimous. Thank you. A little out of practice. It's been since June. Back to Article 11. Is there any additional discussion? All right. Now, using your clickers, we'll go ahead and make a vote on Article 11. Uh, 142 affirmative, 6 in opposition. Clear majority. Article 11 passes. Prior to reading Article 12, I'm looking for unanimous consent to not read all of the verbiage associated with Article 12, the nearly 2.5 pages of text. If there is anyone opposed to reading that entire article word for word, please let me know at this time. Through unanimous consent, we will dispense with the reading of Article 12. However, some informational points, I will read the introduction. Article 12, proposed zoning bylaw amendment, mill conversion overlay district, definitions use chart. To see if the town will vote to amend the Dudley zoning bylaws, section 3.10.00, mill conversion overlay district, by amending subsections 3.10.05, 3.10.07.L, 3.10.08.D, and 3.10.10. Section 6, definitions, subsection 6.01.00, and section 2, use and density restrictions, subsection 2.03.02, use by district chart by deleting text that is struck through and inserting text that is underlined as follows, or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Mayor?
The FAA will defer to a member of the planning board to make a motion.
Mr. Edmiston?
The planning board recommends approval of the motion as read and written, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion on Article 12. Yes. Just as a reminder, enter your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Nicole Kucherov. I am on Blacksfield Road, 72 Blacksfield Road, and the mill is right at the end of our street, so a lot of us on the street were really concerned if there's going to be 150 apartments and 150 weddings per year at this mill, where are these people living in the 150 apartments going to park their cars, and where will all the wedding people park their cars? And in addition, we were talking about, like, well, on the Facebook, you guys had mentioned that no tax fund or money will go into the building of it, but will it be paying the same amount of taxes as 150 people would pay in this town? Or will it be paying a lot less and generating a lot more wear and tear on our streets and a lot more traffic on our main street? Just a lot of concern on the kind of effect it's going to have on our main street area and everyone living there, because it doesn't seem like it will fit.
Thank you. So just to summarize, two main points: parking and traffic relative to the operation, and tax revenues and wear and tear on the local infrastructure.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Ruda?
Mr. Moderator, could I ask that you restate the question? Just, I have an idea as to what the questions are. Just restate the few questions you have.
Would the summary be acceptable to you?
Sure.
Ms. Kudrow? Okay. So question one was relative to the residents of the apartments and parking and traffic for functions. What could a potential plan be for there? And the second question was related to tax revenues of the residents. How would that impact our revenues as a town, as well as the wear and tear on the local infrastructure of the roads?
So to answer the question on the first, which seems to be surrounding traffic impacts and parking and so forth, the town fully recognizes that there's an existing issue with traffic. But we're not going to move forward with any projects until it's properly addressed. What we're asking tonight is to amend, to give us the ability to talk to Cameron, to move forward with the project and see what it comes out to be, see what their design plan is, see what we have for ideas, see what they want to pay for mitigation, see what we can get in grant funding, and work towards mitigating all of these concerns we have. Because these concerns exist now, and this may be an opportunity to address those concerns. In terms of the second question, the tax impact, we will absolutely be receiving more taxes than we are currently on that building. There's no question about it. That would never get approved without an appropriately negotiated and acceptable to the community, an acceptable tax plan. It would not remain the same. It would be significant. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think for the first one, I know in the video he mentioned specifically a wedding venue with 150 weddings a year.
Right.
So with the question of 150 apartments, obviously, we already have traffic issues in this area. This is the Dippin' Donuts area. Everyone knows it's miserable to get through there. But then on top of the 150 apartments, which is very questionable, 150 weddings per year, that's every other day with a wedding. I mean,
We may be confused if that's what the developer said, 150 weddings a year, we would certainly address that, but he may have been referring to other projects that they've successfully completed. You know, I can't imagine 150 weddings in one venue in Worcester, let alone in Dudley.
yeah, that's just what he said in the video. So.
I mean, if we were certainly negotiating something like, yes, we're definitely, our question at 150 weddings a year every couple of days, we've got your back on that. There's no question that there would have to be additional considerations of that. But we're not there yet. We're not negotiating that because we need to be able to talk about this amendment to move any further about taxes, mitigation or surrounding the traffic plan, and so forth.
So will there be another vote?
Pardon, just procedurally, we can't really get into discussions about, what potentially could become, because we're really talking about the adjustment to language of the zoning bylaw to allow an entry into a planning process for the use of Stevens Mill as opposed to its current use. So the discussion around speculation of what could be does become a bit of an issue. So we are going to, I'll allow you to ask and finish up your last thought that's related to that, but we do want to get down to comments about the language that is stricken and language that is being added to the zoning bylaw as printed in Article 12. But I'll let you finish that last thought, okay?
Yeah, so what I understood was that Section 6 definitions, they're removing the requirement for it to be something like in a restaurant or something of that nature. And for Section 6 definitions, what they're inserting would be a community facility or an event center, which is what he was saying he wanted in the video, which would be the wedding event. And so that's actually what we're voting on tonight.
Well phrased.
I just want to clarify.
Yes.
So I'm Michelle Hayes. I'm also on Flaxfield Road, and I don't particularly feel like the question, Nikki's question on the parking situation specifically was answered. So in Article 6, you're specifically asking for an event center and a community facility, yet the original designs provided by the developer absolutely do not account for parking that would correspond to the number of people an event center would bring into the area. As residents on Flaxfield Road, that's the only public street that public parking is allowed, and we will have all of the traffic impacts from that facility there. I also have a concern about the request for a waiver on the low-income housing, and I'd like that to be addressed as well.
Thank you, Mr. Ruda.
And we certainly understand those concerns. To kind of circle back with the previous speaker and your question, anything that passes tonight will involve many public hearings with the planning board and many public hearings probably involving the board of selectmen and other appropriate boards. So this is not a vote that you're taking tonight, and all of a sudden, we've got 150 weddings a year. We were nowhere near even discussing that at this point.
But my question is, how can you specifically call out 2 special use events for an event center and a community facility if you haven't started those negotiations already? Wouldn't it be prudent to have that negotiation and then amend the bylaw with the specific use of what the developer is looking for?
We want the ability to talk further about it, right? We want to put that on the table as a potential and then move forward with further negotiations. There's no, even the drawing that we're referring to is an inappropriate amount of parking. We're not disputing that at this point. We know that, but the traffic study, the engineering plan, everything needs to be done associated with this development has not been done yet. This is just a concept. We're in the concept phase at this point.
But why would you tie a zoning law amendment to a concept? Like, I would think once the concept was validated, that is when you would appropriate the bylaw change.
Because the zoning law amendment on its own goes no further until if there's the ability to waive these requirements exists. Then it has to go to public hearing and go on into separate reports. It doesn't go any further than giving us the ability to have to request a special permit. They have the hearings, to hear from the public, to look at the engineered plans, and then make a decision from there. We can't, we've got to position ourselves to be able to do that to move forward with the project.
So can you address the part about the public housing requirement and why the town is against a low-income housing of 10% that's currently in the bylaw?
The town's not against it, it wants the ability to waive it.
Sure, but if you're asking for flexibility to waive a 10% requirement, that seems like there's vested interest in actually waiving that requirement.
The only vested interest is, what's presented to us. We don't feel it's in the best interest of the town, and certainly we're moving further.
So how do you determine what's in the best interest of the town when there's
Public hearings, engineered plans, mitigation plans, further discussion. We're nowhere near that at this point.
Has there been any other development in the town that's had the 10% waiver requirement?
I don't think so.
So just for, procedurally, you're going to be directing the questions up here through the chair and through Mr. Ruda. It's okay. It's a friendly back and forth right now, but I want to make sure that we're maintaining a reasonable flow and stick with our procedures here.
Speak to any of those specific questions?
So I don't know if my 5 minutes is up, but I'd also like to hear about the specific economic benefits that you feel like the mill project is going to bring to the town. I know there's safety concerns that the police and fire chief had brought up, which is obviously a valid concern. I feel like there's ways to remediate those outside of the mill development project. However, what is the specific, they're talking about a $40 million development. Who benefits from that? Because I don't see it bringing in additional tax revenue.
Right off the top, without going too far down the road, because we need to see how the eventual plan comes out, I can tell you the immediate benefit is that if you develop 160 market rate units into a mill that is currently condemned, the tax benefit is going to be incrementally increased over the course of time. That's the immediate benefit.
So sorry, I should have addressed this as the moderator, but do you have the financials that show what an individual person who would be paying taxes, so it's apartments, so I imagine the corporation itself would pay the taxes, not the individual units, offset by the services that those tenants are going to consume with schools and fire, water, etc. Do you have that valuation of what the difference is between the two?
We're nowhere near that. We're nowhere near it. We know that we will hopefully, if the deal is right, we will get to that point and present it publicly, but we're nowhere near that. We're discussing right now the amendment of the bylaw.
Sure, but you're making them claim for the amendment of the bylaw based on an economic. You guys put together this video that shows that there's going to be an economic benefit to the town, and yet when I ask you to quantify that, you're unable to speak to that because it's too early in the project.
Yes.
But then why are you going and saying that there's a huge economic development
10 seconds.
to the community?
To answer the question directly, the benefit of not having a condemned building in town that's in arrears on its taxes versus a 160 unit middle to high end 1 and 2 bedroom residential facility is obvious.
I didn't follow that math.
Mr. Sullivan?
I would just like to speak a little bit on the bylaw as it stands. I was on the planning board when the bylaw was crafted, and the state requirement is 10% of your housing stock in town must be, people say low income, but it's also age-restricted elderly. So we put that 10% in as a benchmark for projects that come forward to try to help the town. I don't have the numbers in front of me. The assessors probably better than I do. I think it's somewhere around between 2.8 and 4% of our stock right now. So it was never a hard figure when I was on the planning board that we chose. So like any other zoning regulation, the flexibility to amend it is what we're looking for. And as an aside, the lady that spoke just previous to myself, she asked a question about anybody else waived that requirement. We haven't had a project, I was on the planning board over 15 years ago, we haven't had a project come forward in 15 years of this scope to even ask for the waiver. So if this passes, all we're looking for is the ability to continue the conversation with Camden. They're the seventh, as everyone saw the video, I don't want to be there, the seventh person to come forward since I've been on the board. The other six all left for whatever reason, economic impact or economic thing we'd have to put up. So this just helps us to move forward. And to emphasize what Mr. Ruda said, we don't even have the numbers yet on financial impact, but all I can tell you, the impact is more than zero. That property is in arrears. That property is bringing no money into the town. The previous owner had basically defaulted on everything, and we continue to work in good faith. The Historical Commission, I see the chairman's here, we give historical credits every year to that property. And I don't do social media, but I hear the chatter in the background from people. Someone said something about, well, it's not unsafe to put an X on the building. Well, if there's 3 or 4 or 5 young people, squatters, I mean, you saw the video, we didn't put the chairs on the roof, we didn't put the coolers in there, we didn't put the couch. If the fire department shows up and 2 kids come running out the door, and I said this at the last town meeting, and they say, oh, our 2 friends are still in there, I'm fairly certain that the first responders are not going to say, well, there's an X on the building, we can't go in. And it's a tragedy waiting to happen. If we walk away from this project, it won't be a tragedy, it'll just be a hole around at some point. So I strongly urge, give the Board of Selectmen, on behalf of the town, the authority to continue moving forward with this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Yes, sir. Mr. Fox, I believe? Can't tell with the mask on. But I'd say the silver fox has arrived. Thank you. I still have a little bit of humor left. Tiny bit.
My name is Peter Fox, 12 Ridge Drive. I support the passage of this article because I think it's very important for the town of Dudley. We have a historical building that desperately needs to be repaired and put to some good use. There are benefits from doing that, and there's definitely benefits to the town. All this article does, it allows the selectmen to move forward and advance the negotiations. So I urge that everybody support this article.
Thank you. Yes, way at the back, and then I'll come here to the middle. I'm spacing out the sanitization of the microphone, that's all.
Hi, my name is Tammy Ducharme from 27 June Street in Dudley. I'm a business owner as well. Me and my husband own 21 Sports Bar on West Main Street. I just want everybody to consider the impact of small businesses in our area if we have 150 additional residents that come into Dudley, and the impact it'll have on the number of small businesses and the economy of Dudley. It's a very good opportunity for us, especially in this time. You know, Putnam has come up, Webster's starting to come up. It's our time now too. So please consider a yes vote so we can get this moving ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. And then I'll come to the back on the aisle.
Hi, my name is Joanne Simzak. I'm at 21 Schofield Ave. I've served on the Board of Assessors, Economic Development Committee, and a former selectman, and I think we're missing the point of this article. Massachusetts has moved towards what is called smart growth. Smart growth involves utilizing properties that you have, putting them into circulation, giving it a larger appeal for usages, which allows for what they want to do with this particular property, but it's not about them. It's about making a zoning change because it starts with zoning and planning to be able to go forward to utilize some of these buildings in different aspects. Otherwise, what you're doing throughout is knocking down buildings and starting from scratch continuously, when you could have taken buildings, rehab them, put them into circulation through a mixture of different uses. You have to trust that this is about the article to make the zoning applicable to go forward. It is not particularly about just these people. I was around 15 years ago when a developer did try and develop this. But it's not about the developer, it's about the zoning to allow you to increase the usages of what property can do. Then you have to trust your boards, which are your planning board, your board of selectmen, your zoning, to enforce what then becomes the requirement of whatever it is someone wants to do with the building. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a lot of places in town that you just knock down structures, put up some modern buildings, and we all sit around and moan and groan about the main street of Webster when we used to have a beautiful post office, and it's gone. So now we can moan and groan about other buildings, not just about Stevens Linen, but about other buildings that we could have recirculated, but it all starts with zoning. So if we don't make the zoning change, we don't get to talk to anybody and go forward. That's all that this is about. It's not about this one developer. It's about the process that needs to happen. And it's called smart growth. Massachusetts is promoting it. If you look it up and you pull it up on the internet, you're going to find this is not anything unusual, but this is where it begins. We do need to vote for this.
Thank you. Yes, on the aisle in the middle here, at the back.
Hi, my name is Conrad Allen. I'm also on the Board of Assessors. There was a couple of questions about the income to the town. Income property is based upon the income they generate. These people are spending $259,000 plus per each apartment. That's a lot of money. I don't know how they're going to pay for it. But to answer the question, if the property is assessed at $30 million, it's going to bring the town in $360,000 additionally every year, plus water and sewer. An awful lot of money to the town coming in. I don't know the makeup of the apartments. I don't know if there's 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, or 3 bedroom. I haven't seen that. But if anybody's gone out to look for an apartment to rent, a 2-bedroom apartment, a nothing 2-bedroom apartment, 100 years old, is $1,100 now in the town of Webster. Dudley does not have much rental stock, so we don't have a lot of rentals. But again, the income is derived by the assessed value, which is derived by the cost approach and how much income they're taking in. So it's a pretty cut and dry formula. I can assure you that the town's not going to mess around with it because the Board of Assessors will be overlooking it, and then the Department of Revenue will be overlooking us. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that a hand at the far back? Sorry. Oh, no. Okay, thank you. Seeing and hearing no additional discussion, we'll go ahead and call for a vote on Article 12. This article does require a 2/3 majority vote. I'm sorry? We'll go ahead and call for that vote. Thank you. (122 to 23). That is a clear 2/3 majority. Article 12 passes. Article 13, zoning bylaw change, 115 Schofield Ave from Industrial 43 to Industrial 130, to see if the town will vote to amend its zoning map and rezone a parcel of land consisting of 4.4 acres plus or minus, known as 115 Schofield Avenue, as shown on Assessor's Map 124, Parcel 12, from the Industrial 43 zoning district to the Industrial 130 zoning district, or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Mayor?
The FAA will defer to the Board of Selectmen for a motion.
Mr. Siganovich.
The Board of Selectmen recommends that we pass over this article, and I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded for Article 13. Is there any discussion? Yes, in the back left. First one out of the aisle, I guess.
$75 for that, Dudley, and I own the building on 115 Schofield. And I guess, like Norm said before, I'm wondering why the town would want to contradict what they're doing with the zoning bylaws by being proactive and trying to rezone the land.
I did have a little bit of trouble hearing you to summarize the question. Yeah, if you don't mind, thank you.
Sorry. I guess based off the previous zoning bylaw changes, I'm guessing why the town would not want to be proactive and rezone the actual parcel.
So the motion on the table, which is the discussion we need to have right now, is about the passing over of the article. So I'll let a member of the board or Mr. Ruda address that. Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, the intent of the...
Try to get to a microphone.
Yeah, we'll bring the mic over, Paul.
Let me yell. The intent of the motion, I don't want to do it in the moment. Sorry? The intent of the motion is to pass over for more information. We haven't even got the first one in place yet, cannabis project, and this one will then go ahead and create a second one. And we only have 2 to give. So what we're recommending is that we hold off, let's get the first one set up and running, and see what the impact is on the community and that nearby community, and then we can talk about a second one. Because we've only got 1 more to give after this. We want to make sure we do it right the second one.
Okay. Thank you. Additional discussion? Seeing and hearing none. We did have 2 hands up. You're good with that question out in the corner? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, how you doing? My name's David from Webster, Mass. So I'm not a Dudley resident.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't allow your participation in the discussion.
I thought we went over that at the beginning of the meeting, that outside parties were able to be part of the discussion.
Outside parties should remain to the petition of the article. What's that?
Should be in the front, should be in the front?
Yeah. Yeah, but I missed that one. I'll let that one go. Yeah. But, you know, I guess the question is, you know, what is your role?
Oh, yeah, my role is I'm part of the process for the whole transfer of the parcel. And, you know, as I don't know if the town's aware or not, but, you know, we're looking to put a marijuana dispensary in that particular property. And I guess what the issue is the grow op and the dispensary that's going over in Drafters. And, you know, there's a little bit of stir about that. When we originally went to the planning board meeting for the first time, nobody was in opposition of bringing this to the board. And, you know, now that everybody kind of was aware of it, it seems that, you know, people are kind of making a big fuss about it. I can tell you now from experience that Michaela, as well as the other person involved in this project, has a lot of background in the industry. And she is more than suitable and more than knowledgeable to move forward with this process. It is not a big dispensary. You know, it's not a big project, and we have many certifications, experience as well as I do in the industry. And the town allows 2 licenses for, you know, marijuana dispensaries. And the location is honestly the best location at Dudley. That is not downtown, is not going to cause traffic. And the only reason why we want to change it for that zone is because it is required under the Marijuana Commission for it to be either mill district or industrial 130. If you look on the zoning map, you know, it is very limited space to allow another dispensary. The dispensary is also located right next to a police station. We're more than willing to work with the other dispensary and grow up. You know, there's got to be room in the market for another one. You know, you guys are allowing another licensure, and you know, I'm just here to state my, you know, voice my opinion, and that's all I can do because I'm not a voter. And we'll see what happens when we move forward. But I just want to let everybody in the town, you know what's going on.
Thank you, Mr. Siganovich.
As Mr. Joseph had stated, we've got one in the pipeline. They're going to bring 200 to 300 jobs to the town. They gave preference to Dudley residents for first dibs on the jobs. We're looking in the millions of dollars coming into the town every year. Do we really want to upset that apple cart right now? I mean, this property would be right almost a nearby, geez, they'd almost border them. And like Mr. Joseph said, this is all new to us. This is new to all of us, having a marijuana growing dispensary in town. Don't we want to make sure the first one goes off without a hitch? Make sure we do it right? Maybe learn some lessons from that one for the second one? Now, we've only got 2 licenses to give. That's it. We've already done one, and it knock on wood, it's going to be great for the town. If we give a second one, don't we want a similar type of thing? Where maybe one of the mills, like the paper mill in West Dudley gets redeveloped, or maybe somewhere else in town? That's the reason why, and I wasn't a part of this, there were some other really smart people who made the districts for the marijuana because they wanted to have properties that we wanted to have developed. I don't know if this property is one of them, but anyway, we're putting the cart before the horse. Like Mr. Joseph said, let's get the first one done, let's get it done well, and then let's look for another one. We're not in any rush right now. I don't think we should be. Thank you.
Thank you.
So regarding the the closeness of the properties, if you look at like Burger King, McDonald's, Walgreens, CVS, they're all located very similarly. And I understand that the projects are going to be, the project. He said he doesn't want to upset the client. So the project's probably $40 million to do the grow up and the dispensary. What we're asking is a small woman-owned business to be put into the town of Dudley in a location that is almost ideal. If I can pull the PowerPoint of the zoning map.
Chairman, I object. I absolutely object. He's already said he's not from the town. You gave him the courtesy of speaking once. He has a financial interest in speaking for him. Now, if he had listened to the rules, he'd be sitting up front, and we'd know that he is not a town resident. And I object to him continuing to talk about something that will feather his own nest when he's not even a damn resident.
Given that information, I accept that objection, and I will direct this member of the audience to either the front row or to head out the back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Yes, ma'am. Is that Ms. Ayers? Hayes. Okay, I'm sorry.
Chris, he's still standing in the back.
So Michelle Hayes, 74 Flaxfield. So I was following you guys until the last comment, but it sounds like the selectmen aren't in favor of the zoning bylaw change. Is that what just happened?
Excuse me, sir.
He's coming, Paul. Coming up.
Fair enough. I'm sorry, your question again?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, Mr. I'm going to butcher your last name. Thank you.
Very good.
So I wasn't actually following your answer. So are you saying that the selectmen, you were saying that you're not in favor of issuing a second permit right now, but you're proposing a zoning bylaw change that would seem to enable that? So are you saying that you guys are, the Board of Selectmen is against Article 13 passing?
Article 13, that is this one we're speaking about now?
Yes, Schofield Avenue. So I didn't follow your and Mr. Joseph's.
We're not so much against it, we just want to pass it over because like what I said, we've already got one. We want to get that right before we go any further, so no, we're not in favor.
What does pass it over mean? Your goal is to get a no vote for Article 13.
By passing it over, just like it says, it gets passed over and it's basically a no.
Yeah, just for a point of information, to pass over an article doesn't mean the article is in essence defeated or killed. It's bound to come back around at a future town meeting once additional information has been provided by the petitioner and the Board of Selectmen and the FAA make a recommendation to accept that back onto the additional warrant down the line. It's not necessarily that they're in opposition to the article itself. It's just they, as was referenced earlier, they want additional information in order to make a recommendation on the article, either in favor of or in opposition to at a future time.
What language in Article 13 specifically mentions Passover? I don't read that at all.
Well, Passover is like a type of motion. You can
Okay.
approve.
Okay. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Also, this was brought up at the Selectmen's meeting, and it went to a joint meeting of the FAA and the Board of Selectmen as a public hearing where there was some opposition of members that spoke against it. The Passover for more information, while on the surface probably looks like a tough pill to swallow, as the moderator stated, it can come back up bound to a further town meeting. If this motion to pass over is defeated, but the motion to rezone gets defeated, the applicant is restricted. I can defer to the planner on this one, but I believe he's restricted from even bringing it back for 2 years without a substantive change in the warrant article. So, like I said, a Passover seems like a bitter pill to swallow, but if it's Passover for more information, it can come back again at the next town meeting or next fall town meeting, whereas if it gets outright, the motion Passover fails and it gets voted and defeated, it's off the table for 2 years.
Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Sullivan. Seeing no additional discussion, we'll go ahead and call. Ooh, I got this hand at the last moment. Thank you.
Marcia Wagner, 27 Hickory Drive. Is just 4 acres considered spot zoning? And on my second thing I wanted to say is, people who aren't familiar with voting in town meetings, a vote to pass over is a vote yes, not a vote no, correct? When you ask us if we want to agree with the selectmen to vote to pass it over, we say yes on our vote.
Yes, so when we do get to vote, just as a point of information for our participants in the audience, the question is not if we are accepting the zoning bylaw change. We are going to be voting on a motion when it is that time to pass over the article, and a yes vote would indicate yes, we are going to pass over that article. The first question that Ms. Wagner asked, though, was, I believe it was in the form of a question, was about, is this an example of spot zoning? Is there anyone who would like to answer that question? Town Council, yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Carolyn Murray, Town Council.
Thank you.
Most of the cases addressing spot zoning don't really get into the specific size of the parcel. I can tell you there is some case law precedent out there for a parcel that was about 4.7 acres in size, and that was deemed not to be spot zoning.
Thank you. Seeing no and hearing no discussion additionally, we will go ahead and call for a vote to pass over Article 13. A yes vote for clarification purposes is to pass over the article. A no vote is to not pass over the article. We can go ahead and enter that vote now. the vote to pass over does pass with a total of 111 in the affirmative and 20 in the nay. Article 14, to see if the town will raise, appropriate, or transfer the sum of $6,972.20 to the town clerk salary account number listed, effective January 1st, 2021, or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Can the FAA raise a point of information?
Yes.
This transfer on this article is in effect a salary increase. We're just concerned that it may be required, since it's an elected official, to be brought up at an annual town meeting. We'd just like clarification on that. And I would prefer
Town council.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It isn't that an elected official's salary cannot be adjusted at any other town meeting other than an annual town meeting. The only difference is that statutorily the quantum of vote changes. So ordinarily, a special town meeting to adjust an elected official's salary would require a 2/3 vote. But by your bylaws, you consider your annual town meeting to be held in 2 sessions. You have one typically in the spring, if it hadn't been for COVID, and then you also have another portion of your annual town meeting in the fall. So it's still appropriate to take this up.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. Mr. Mayor?
Just a follow-up question on that. I believe that the fall town meeting was changed to special town meeting. I believe that in the bylaws, so would this not be considered special town meeting? I think that Mario just changed.
Your bylaw still refers to 2 sessions of an annual town meeting, plus you can also have a special town meeting at another time.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. Mr. Mayor?
The FAA recommends amending, the FAA recommends that we pass Article 14 with the following amendment. The amount of $6,972.20 changed to $3,486.10 to reflect the funding needed from January 1st of 2021 through June 30th of 2021 to cover the overall increase of $6,972.20, and I so move. Funding from free cash.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there discussion for Article 14? Yes.
Hello, Stephen Flynn from 97 Southbridge Road. So I'm just trying to get some clarification on this. So was this article brought by the town clerk, it appears? So the town clerk is looking for a raise on her own behalf, is that correct?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, that's, the raise was, that amount of money was actually cut out of, I believe it was the 2020 budget, when the previous town clerk had retired and the town clerks were, all the new candidates were running. That was to balance the budget for that annual meeting. So that salary's cut. This is restorative back to the original amount.
Okay, that's all I had.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no additional discussion, hearing no additional discussion, we'll go ahead and take a vote on Article 14 as presented by Mr. Mayotte.
As amended?
As amended by Mr. Mayotte. Thank you. Yes, sir.
If he made an amendment, if that was his motion, you have to vote on the amendment.
He phrased the motion as amending the warrant article.
Okay, but you can lower the amount, you can't go over the amount in the warrant article, you can go lower. So if that's the original motion for the half amount, then you don't need to vote twice, you just vote once, right?
That's correct.
Okay. I'll make sure people understand.
Yes, sir. Thank you. In favor, 48 opposed. The article passes with a majority. Article 15, Town Clerk Board of Selectmen Special Legislation Petition to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court for special legislation making the elected positions of Town Clerk and Treasurer/Collector appointed positions, such appointment to be made by the Board of Selectmen with such special legislation to take effect 90 days after the General Court's passage of same, provided, however, that the General Court may make clerical or editorial changes of form only to said bill unless the Board of Selectmen approves amendments thereto prior to enactment by the General Court, and provided further that the Board of Selectmen is hereby authorized to approve amendments which shall be within the scope of the general public objectives of this petition or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Mayor?
The FAA will defer to the Board of Selectmen to make a motion.
Mr. Siganovich? Oh, thank you.
The Board of Selectmen recommends approval of this article as written, and I so move.
Yeah, if you could speak directly into the mic.
The Board of Selectmen recommends approval of this article as written, and I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion on Article 15. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Can I get a point of information on this?
Yes, sir.
Under Mass General Law, does this, if this is successful, does this have to appear on the ballot?
Ms. Murray?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. There is a process under Chapter 41(1)B where this could be a question that's put to the voters on a ballot question. But another way to achieve it is also to seek an act of special legislation, which is what this article is doing. So this does not include a ballot question to the voters.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, just one more question. Because it is a petition to the General Court, it is a change, fundamental change to our bylaws. Does this require 2/3 majority?
No, it's just a majority vote.
Thank you. Additional discussion on Article 15. Yes, on the aisle, Mr. Raymond.
Yes, Richard Raymond, 191 Cloven Road. I would like to know from the Board of Selectmen why after decades and decades of us electing these positions, now they want to do it through appointment. Can we get some background on that, please?
Mr. Siganovich. Mr. Ruda.
Some background on it. Well, the town clerk had requested to be appointed. Can everybody hear me okay? You know what?
Nice and close, Kerry.
I'll take that, yeah, exactly. The town clerk had requested this. She had requested to become appointed. Town council had recommended that we go this route because a number of other communities have been doing this. It seems, again, the town council thinks it's a good idea to appoint as opposed to elect people. If someone's elected, the only requirement for the position is that they're, I believe, a registered voter or possibly a resident. This would put a little more as far as requirements as far as who could do the job. This isn't, and I'll tell you, this isn't to get rid of anybody. That's not what this is. It's not the intention.
Well, through the chair, I'd like to ask this question. It's almost like this article, you're not trusting us to elect the people that, that we have elected over the years. And you're a little concerned of appointments because it gets very narrow in scope. I understand your concern about qualifications, but don't we as a whole in a group, when we elect people, have to deal with that as well? I'm very concerned about giving up the right to vote on elected positions, because this goes beyond the clerk. It also involves the treasurer. And it's a decision where the Board of Selectmen, although you're elected, once you make the appointment is filled until, and then if you make a decision that's wrong, you stand the election, and we get to choose based upon how you made your decision, but the position is filled, and we lost our right to vote. So therefore, I get a big concern over losing our right to vote for elected positions that we've been elected for decades. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Siganovich?
I want to answer you, Mr. Raymond. I have a lot of respect for you. I really do, you know that. And honestly, however you vote on this, you vote on this. This is wonderful that so many people are here today to vote. I mean, I can remember barely getting a quorum, and now we've got 100 and something people. This is awesome. But it's a... Jimmy Crickets. Sorry, the mic was moving. Really, whichever you want, it's your town. Vote how you want. If you want to keep it the way it is, where it's elected every 3 years for those positions, go ahead and do it. If you want to put it on us to appoint those people and work out contracts and have minimum qualifications and what have you, go ahead and vote that. I mean, either way, I'm going to sleep pretty well tonight. And actually, the other part you said about how taking power away from you, actually, a lot of the decisions I make, I take by how you folks vote here today. Like, for instance, the Stevens Linen Mill. You voted to give us the ability to start working on that. That's great. That tells me that the town is interested in at least having discussions about revitalizing some pieces of town that could be better. That's good. You passed over the piece about the marijuana dispensary. Again, that's good, and I'm going to use that information going forward with decisions that I make every other Monday. I don't like making decisions on an island. So there's pros and cons to both, and just vote what you want. It's your town. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. We will hop to the middle next.
My name is William J. Conley. I live at 143 Charlton Road in Dudley. For the record, I have spent 30 years, 2 months, 27 days serving this country in the United States Marine Corps. I'm a retired colonel. I value my vote, and I vote in every single election. I have never deferred to vote. I have never missed an election, even when I was deployed overseas. I always made sure my absentee ballot got in time. I value my vote so much that I do not and will not support any position that takes an elected position and makes an appointment. The town clerk and the town treasurer are my checks and balances for the town administrator and the selectmen. I am not going to give up that without a fight. And you shouldn't either. You're being stupid if you do. These positions, when they're voted on, are responsible for their performance to the electorate. You are the electorate. Don't give that authority up because it's easier for some people. If you don't like running for the office, don't run. If you don't like the salary the office gives, don't run. Don't come before a town and want us to supplement your salary because you're unsatisfied with it. And don't come before the town and expect me to give up my vote because somebody's too lazy to run every 3 years or 2 years. Thank you.
Mr. Connell. I'll allow the applause because of the amount of service Mr. Connolly's applied to this country. Thank you very much for your service, sir. Ms. Simzak. Oh, sorry, he snuck in there on you.
Okay, I'm on the opposite side. I do believe it should be appointed. And the reason I'm going to say that is because I am a dinosaur. My children are not dinosaurs. Your children and grandchildren are not dinosaurs. Some of us couldn't turn the computer on to save our life. If you chose to run for that office, and those were your only credentials, if you could turn a computer on, you'd be able to get elected if everybody liked you. I think it's a job that requires showing credentials. And again, our voice that we elected are the selectmen. And I don't mind electing the selectmen because they're not getting paid big salaries. Some of them are close to being a volunteer. They do bring a lot of good credentials with them. But these are paid positions, and our record keeping now in this society is pretty tough. So we need to have people who come with a lot more skills than just being nice people, being popular, and running for the office. And our voice to them is through the elected people who would appoint them. I sat through a lot of meetings, the selectmen's meetings, and a lot of people showed up for meetings, and they voiced their opinions, and they weren't always what we like to hear, but they gave an opinion, and we listened to selectmen, and that's the way that we can manage those positions, through those people who do elect to appoint, but who read the resumes, interview them, and look at the real qualifications for them. This is not old Holwick. I've been in the town hall a long time in a lot of volunteer positions, and it's not a family. People think, oh, it's a family, everybody gets along. It's a business, and it's big business, and it's your business. In that assessor's office, we talk all the time. Do the people really understand what has to go on in our department for your tax rate to get set? Do they really understand all the paperwork that goes on behind? I think you can be trusting to a certain extent, and I think you can make some decisions, but I think you have to really start looking at this as a business and hold your key people, selectmen, accountable for making good decisions for you. But you got to show up. You got to show up then and tell them what you think. My opinion, I think they should be appointed.
Thank you.
I'm Daniel O'Connor. I live at 14 Village Street. I too value my vote. I value anything that engages the population to participate in town government. I think that elected positions and a decentralized form of government has worked very well for us. I do acknowledge the fact that we've had great difficulty in some aspects and some positions getting people to run, but in particular, these two positions, they're not on that list. I believe it's 4 or 5 people over 50 years in the clerk's position. William Dwyer, Frida Lambros, or a friend, and now our latest town clerk. Those people have done a good job. At least if you can base that on the votes that they've received and the fact that they've been reelected so many times. I'm opposed to this. I'm opposed to anything that takes people like us here in the room out of the equation and puts more and more and more responsibility into the hands of a smaller number of people. I think it's short-sighted, and I don't understand the motivation for it at this point in time. But I'd like to know more about it. But until then, my vote's going to be to defeat this article.
Thank you. Yes, in the center. Oh, Mr. Sullivan, I'm sorry. Mr. Sullivan, and then you're next. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I appreciate everyone's opinion, everyone's attendance tonight. As Chairman Siganovich said, I know sometimes I get a little sarcastic when I say a selectmen's meeting. Hope the 62 people show up. We're well over 62 tonight. We all should be applauded for that. With the previous speaker who just spoke, yes, positions stayed elected, but he was on the board when they combined water and sewer. They limited choices. It was 3 each. They combined it to 5. That went through town meeting, had to go to a vote. The treasurer collector position used to be separate. About, I'm not sure the time frame, maybe 10 years ago, that position became combined. The reason that night was most towns are doing it. And as an aside, that was brought before the Board of Selectmen, which I was a member of, and Mr. Joseph, I don't believe the other 3 were, I believe the previous speaker was on the board. The Board of Selectmen asked not to put that on the warrant for further information, and somebody came up with a 10-person citizens petition, which went through this body to combine those positions. Yes, they stayed elected. All we're trying to do on advice of council, Chairman Siganovich, town administrator, is to move the process forward. Yes, we've had 4 clerks in 50 years, and I know all of them. I would love to see Lillian Dwyer be a town clerk again. The job has changed, and we have to, in the big picture right here, we have to take the personalities and the people out of it. Yes, we have people in the job. Town clerk's new. She's done a very great job with COVID and everything else. The existing town treasurer, collector, has done a great job. A registered voter who can get a 51% can beat an incumbent. It was brought up at the public hearing at the town next to us. The custodian of the town hall became the treasurer. So yes, we have to separate the person and the personalities. I could run for treasurer. I don't balance my own checkbook, and that's not even a joke. The positions have become technical. The positions have become inclusive. It's not what it was 40, 50, 20 years ago, and I'm sure the person in the job now that's been doing it almost 18 years would wholeheartedly agree. It's not a person or a personality. It's moving the town forward into the 21st century, in my opinion only.
Thank you. Yes, pink mask. Just as a reminder, so everyone at the rear can hear, we do have some blowers going. Please reach down to the mic so you can be, or reach up to the mic if you're over there, so everybody out there can hear clearly, please.
Hi, good evening. Gina Spall, 5 Lakeview Ave. I just want to know what the difference is from 8 years ago when this petition was brought to town and it was voted down. What exactly has changed in those 8 years to put this back on the warrant? Thank you.
You want to know the truth?
Mr. Joseph, if you could use the mic, please.
Yeah, I'll get over there.
Thank you.
You want to know the truth? Because very few people know it. The treasurer collector had friends on the Board of Selectmen. Enough to win a vote by majority. And at that time, it wasn't done because other towns were doing it. We didn't know what the hell other towns were doing. We don't know now, we don't need to know now. All we need to know now is what's the right thing to do. So, they made the decision that they did. I was on the losing side of that vote, which is not unusual. It does happen. But here's the point. You're talking about a $19 or $20 million business that is run by someone who is elected. And as Sully said, if you can get the votes in a popular election, you can be a janitor with no experience and become the treasurer for the town. Looking forward to seeing their audits. Let's get rid of the extraneous BS. And there's a lot of it. It's got nothing to do with who the treasurer collector is. It has everything to do with having accountability and be able to do something if anything goes wrong with our finances. I'm going to tell you right now, the whole problem is trust. The issue is trust. When the town administrator sent a communication to the treasurer collector, and they've grown up together, they're friends, or at least they were, all right? Saying that there need to be some changes, that there were issues regarding hours worked and so on and so forth. The first thing the treasurer did, they've been friends, was lawyer up. Got himself a lawyer, and in a subsequent email, she threatened to sue the town if we took certain actions. It's an issue of trust. Now, I talked to Rich beforehand tonight, and I said, look, he said, I've been in the job. I asked him how long. He said 18 years. I said, I don't care if you spend another 18 years, but we've got to have accountability. One of the issues that popped up was, he's elected. I'm elected, 16 years. I'm not an employee of the town, and neither is Rich. We are elected officials. We can, quote, within the law, do whatever we want. We can't be fired. We're not your employees. But you can vote us out. But is that the way you want to have a mutually important and dependent relationship? Rich needs us for health benefits. Rich needs us to make money and pay his bills. We need Rich as a good treasurer collector to do what he was hired to do. But it's not, you want to know why it's come up now? Because Rich has had some issues, all right? Health issues, that's as far as it goes.
Mr. Joseph.
All right?
Mr. Joseph.
What, is that too far?
Mr.
Okay.
Joseph, yep.
Okay. All right, he's had some issues, all right? He's been accused, or he's been
Mr. Joseph,
under pressure.
personnel conversation doesn't have any place here right now.
Okay, we won't do it, I'll stop there.
The motion is being discussed as this article is written.
If I made a mistake, I apologize to all. All right? Well, you know what, Colonel?
Mr. Joseph, I'm going to go ahead and rule that your time is up, Mr. Joseph.
Okay. All right, I'm done. Thank you, appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor?
Well, I guess we just all heard why this article appears on this warrant, maybe. The town clerk's number one position, or number one responsibility, is to uphold free and fair elections. To be accountable to a board of selectmen that is running for re-election is, I believe, a total conflict of interest. The town treasurer is your chief financial officer. For the town treasurer to be in concert with the administrator and the board of selectmen on every number because they're worried about their job, their pay, that again is just, to me, is a conflict of interest. There's no reason for us to give up our right to vote for our town treasurer and our town clerk. And just to respond to a comment, the idea that we leave this up to a popular vote, well, that's kind of insulting to me, and I think insulting to a lot of people in this room, that our judgment is left up to a popular vote, that we don't know, we're not smart enough to know who to elect. That's kind of insulting. And I will also say this, right now in this country, and across this country, there's a lot of elected officials. I would gladly trade for janitors right now. So don't support that.
Yes, ma'am.
Moderator, our past clerk has had her hand up since the beginning of the session.
I'm sorry. I'll recognize Ms. Smith.
Thank you. I can only speak to the town clerk portion of this article. The reason why I asked for it to be put on the agenda is I understand that they were going to be looking at both positions, well, actually one of the positions, and I thought it was a good time to re-evaluate the town clerk position. I know the previous town clerk was looking to get this appointed. Honestly, there's good points for both. There's pros and cons to both. I think it should be up to the voters, which is why I wanted it to go on tonight. So whichever way you feel, it's not that I'm too lazy to campaign. I've certainly proven that with my campaign that I did for this and the effort that I put into it. So it's not that I'm afraid to go through that process. It's that I think it should be brought up to the townspeople. And I know it has been brought up a couple times before, but most recently the previous town clerk tried to get it on the warrant and it wasn't able to. So it seemed as though it was a good time to bring it before the people. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Smith. Mr. Fox.
My name is Peter Fox, 12 Ridge Drive, Dudley. Wow. I would just like to make my personal comments. I am the previous chairman of the Personnel Board, and as the previous chairman, I honestly believe that the town needs to seek the most educated, the most qualified people to operate the functions of the town. They do the pre-screening, the selectmen will join them with screening and go through the hiring process when it comes to that. Both positions over the years have become more complex, more detailed, more computer savvy. You need more education. The job qualifications are changing. It's very, very important that positions in town, that we get people that serve and work that are totally qualified to do those jobs, that are held accountable, that have goals and objectives, that have performance appraisals every year, just like any other business or corporation. With that, I want to make a comment that my comments are not trying to take the rights of voters away from anybody. To the gentleman that served, thank you for serving. I am a veteran and I served and voted also. But I do think it's important that the town starts to think about moving forward to make sure that it has the best qualified people in all the positions in town. And I'm going to support this article. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold the, Mr. Zakowski.
Scott Zakowski, 8 Catherine Street. Two questions, and I would have gotten out of a town meeting without talking. Would have been great. In any case, I've listened to both sides. I saw the question on the article and said, oh no, here we go again. And I'm not going to talk about either person that currently sits in either position because that's not germane to this conversation. I've thought about what I had a conversation with one of the selectmen earlier. He made some good points for wanting to do this. I understand both sides. I understand Mr. Fox from the personnel standpoint. I understand Mr. Conley, Sir Colonel Conley. I understand both sides. And I had to think about it for a long while about which way. This was the only question I didn't know how I was going to vote when I got here. I thought about it for a while I was sitting here, and 4 towns east of here is going through a major financial issue with an appointed town treasurer, the town of Uxbridge. Appointed, elected. Which one's better? Depends. Depends on who's appointing. Right now, we've got a top-notch group of people up front. They're good at the job they're doing.
Speaker has the floor.
They're honestly good at what they're doing. All of them. And I think back, and I mentioned this earlier to the selectman I was talking to, in the past, we've had some real chuckleheads sitting in those seats. We've had some town administrators that weren't good. We've had some selectmen that weren't good. What's going to happen 10 years from now? It's hard to know. It really is hard to know which way to go. At this point, I'm not going to change. My vote isn't going to be to change tonight. I'm going to stick with the way we're doing it now and trust that those of us who show up to vote, those of us who show up to the town meeting, are smart enough to know what we're doing. Hopefully I'm right.
Thank you. Yes, second seat in from the back up there, yeah. If you can approach the microphone, please. Reseat. Can you bring the mic up top, please? Moving the question.
No, let Mr. Dunn speak.
You can bring the mic up to Mr. Dunn. Let's hear him.
Yes, sir, I asked you to move the question.
Oh, that was you who wanted to move the question. I'm sorry. Given the level of debate that we've had going around, we'll move the question to that point. Go ahead to take a vote on Article 15 as presented. Go ahead and we begin that timer now, please. 50 to 77, Article 15 is defeated. Article 16, to see if the town will raise, appropriate, or transfer the sum of $1,807.00 to the treasurer collector salary account number listed, effective January 1, 2021, or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Mayor?
The FAA recommends that you pass Article 16 as written, with source of funding coming from free cash, and I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on Article 16? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll call for a vote on Article 16. Article 16 is passed with a majority. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the fall 2020 town meeting. Mr. Mayor?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Motion's been made and seconded. We do not need a clicker vote for this. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Unanimous. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.